The alarm rang through the ship like a death cry. Captain Jake Morrison ran down the metal hallway, his boots hitting the floor hard. Behind him, other crew members rushed to their stations. The red lights flashed on and off, making everything look like a nightmare. "What do we have?" Jake shouted as he reached the bridge. "3 alien ships, sir," said his second officer, Lieutenant Ben Parker. "They're coming fast from the star system ahead." Jake looked at the big screen. 3 dark shapes moved toward them like hungry wolves. He had seen ships like these before. They belonged to the Galactic Council, the same aliens who had kicked humanity out of their homes over 100 years ago. "Wake up the fleet," Jake ordered. "Tell everyone to get ready to jump to light speed." The human fleet was huge but slow. Thousands of ships filled the empty space around them. Most were old civilian transports carrying families, children, and old people. These were the last humans in the galaxy, and they had been running for more than a century. Jake's ship, the Defiant, was one of the few military vessels left. It was small compared to the alien warships, but it was fast and had good weapons. More importantly, it had a crew that would fight to the death to protect the civilian ships. "Sir, the New Hope is having engine trouble," reported Communications Officer Lisa Carter. "They can't jump with the rest of us." Jake felt his stomach drop. The New Hope carried 5,000 people, including many children. If they left it behind, those people would die. "How long until the aliens reach us?" he asked. 20 minutes, sir." Jake looked at the screen again. The alien ships were getting bigger. He could see their weapons charging up, ready to fire. The Galactic Council never gave warnings. They just attacked. "Get me Captain Amy Blake on the Mercy," Jake said. Amy's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired, like everyone else in the fleet. Her medical ship had been working non-stop for weeks, treating sick people and delivering babies. But her eyes were still strong. "Jake, we can't leave them behind," she said before he could speak. "I know. How many people can your ship take?" "Maybe 1,000 if we pack them tight." "But Jake, there's no time to transfer everyone." Jake nodded. He had made this choice before, and it never got easier. Sometimes you had to sacrifice a few to save many. But today felt different. Today he was tired of running. "Amy, get your ship ready to take refugees. Ben, tell the fleet to prepare for emergency jump, but keep the engines warm. We might need to run fast. Sir, what are you planning?" Ben asked. Jake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "I'm going to buy them some time." The Defiant turned toward the alien ships. Jake knew it was probably suicide, but he was tired of watching his people die while running away. At least this time, he would make the aliens pay for their cruelty. "All hands, this is the captain," Jake announced over the ship's speakers. "We're going to attack the alien ships. I won't lie to you. We probably won't survive, but we're going to give our people time to escape. For Earth, for humanity." The crew worked faster than ever. Everyone knew what this meant. They were not just fighting for the New Hope. They were fighting for the memory of Earth, for the billions of humans who had already died, and for the hope that someday their children might find a new home. Ryan Blake sat in his scout ship, watching the Defiant charge toward the alien vessels. His wife Amy was getting ready to save as many people as she could. His daughter Emma was somewhere in the fleet, probably scared, but trying to be brave. "Dad, are they really going to attack?" Emma's voice came through the radio. "Yes, sweetheart. Captain Morrison is buying us time. Can we help them?" Ryan wanted to say yes. He wanted to turn his small ship around and join the fight. But his job was to protect the fleet, not to die in a hopeless battle. "We help by keeping everyone safe," he said. "That's what Captain Morrison wants." The first alien ship fired. Bright energy beams shot across space toward the Defiant. Jake's ship moved fast, dodging most of the shots. But one beam hit the back of the ship, making it shake hard. Hull breach. On deck 5, someone shouted. Keep firing. Jake ordered. The Defiant's weapons hit the closest alien ship. For a moment, Jake felt hope. Maybe they could actually win this fight. But then the other 2 alien ships joined the attack. More energy beams filled the space around the Defiant. The ship's shields were failing. Jake knew they had maybe 5 minutes before the ship would break apart. Sir, the New Hope is ready to? Jump, Lisa reported. Good. Tell them to go. Tell the whole fleet to go. What about us? Jake looked around the bridge. His crew was still working, still fighting, even though they all knew how this would end. They were the best people he had ever known. We keep fighting until they're all safe. But then something impossible happened. The long-range sensors picked up a new signal. It was coming from the edge of the star system, moving fast toward them. What is that? Ben asked. Lisa worked at her station, trying to identify the signal. Her face went white. Sir, it's a human ship. It's broadcasting on old Earth military frequencies. Jake stared at the screen. That was impossible. All human military ships had been destroyed or were part of the Exile fleet. There were no other ships out there. Are you sure? Yes, sir. It's big, really big. And it's coming this way fast. The alien ships had noticed the new signal too. They stopped firing at the Defiant and turned toward the unknown ship. Jake used the brake to move his ship closer to the fleet. This is impossible, he said quietly. But, impossible or not, something was coming. Something that might change everything for humanity. Jake just hoped they would live long enough to find out what it was. The mystery ship was still too far away to see clearly, but its signal was getting stronger. And for the first time in years, Jake Morrison felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope. The mystery ship came out of light speed like a metal mountain. Jake Morrison stared at his screen, not believing what he saw. The ship was massive, bigger than anything in the Exile fleet. Its hull was covered in scars and patches, like it had been through 100 battles. My God, whispered Ben Parker. Look at the size of that thing. The ship's weapons were already charging, but they were not pointed at the human fleet. They were aimed at the 3 alien council ships that had been attacking the Defiant. This is Admiral Helen Parker of the UES Retribution, came a voice over the radio. It was an old woman's voice, but strong and clear. Council ships, you have 30 seconds to leave this system, or we will destroy you. Jake's heart stopped. Admiral Parker had been dead for over a century. She had commanded the deep space mission that disappeared during the early days of the Thalai. Exile. Everyone thought her ship had been destroyed. Impossible, Lisa Carter said from her station. Admiral Parker died when Earth fell. The council ships did not leave. Instead, they turned their weapons toward the Retribution. Jake had seen council ships fight before. They were fast and deadly. But he had never seen anything like what happened next. The Retribution fired. Its weapons were not like normal human weapons. They were different, more powerful. The energy beams were bright blue instead of red, and they moved faster than anything Jake had ever seen. The first council ship exploded in a ball of fire. The second one tried to run, but the Retribution's weapons followed it through space. The third ship managed to fire back, but its shots bounced off the Retribution's shields like rocks hitting a wall. In less than 5 minutes, all 3 council ships were destroyed. The Retribution had not even moved from its position. Human fleet, this is Admiral Parker, the voice said again. Please prepare to receive boarding parties. We have much to discuss. Jake looked at his crew. They all had the same shocked expression. The dead had come back to life, and they had saved the fleet. Admiral Parker, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Defiant. We thought you were dead. I understand your confusion, Captain. We have been gone for a long time, but we are very much alive, and we have much to tell you. Small ships began leaving the Retribution. They were sleek and fast, unlike anything in the Exile fleet. As they got closer, Jake could see that they were not entirely human design. They had parts that looked alien, but not like Council technology. Captain Morrison, Admiral Parker's voice continued. Please gather your fleet commanders. We need to meet as soon as possible. Jake gave orders to his crew, then took a shuttle to the New Hope. The big transport ship had become the unofficial meeting place for the fleet leaders. As he flew toward it, he kept looking back at the Retribution. The ship was huge, but it moved like it was alive. The meeting room on the New Hope was packed. All the ship captains were there, along with Dr. Lisa Carter, the fleet's historian. Captain Amy Blake had come from her medical ship. Her husband Ryan was there too, along with their daughter Emma, who worked as a communications officer. When Admiral Parker entered the room, everyone went quiet. She was old, maybe 80 years. Old, but she walked like a soldier. Behind her came several other officers, including a man who looked like he had been through hell. I am Colonel Steve Martinez, the man said. I am Admiral Parker's second in command. I know you have questions. We will answer them all. Admiral Parker sat down slowly. Her eyes were tired, but they were also angry. 127 years ago, my ship left Earth on a deep space mission, she began. We were supposed to find new worlds for humanity to colonize. Instead, we found something else. We found the truth about the Galactic Council. She paused and looked around the room. The Council has been lying to the galaxy for over 1,000 years. Humanity was not the first species they exiled. We were the 8th. The room erupted in shocked voices. Dr. Carter stood up. That's impossible. The Council's records show that humanity was a special case, a unique threat. The Council's records are lies, said a woman who had entered with Admiral Parker. I am Dr. Sandra Hayes, xenobiologist. For over a century, we have been studying the Council's history. Every 50 to 100 years, they identify a species that is becoming too powerful, too successful. They declare that species a threat and either destroy them or drive them into exile. Colonel Martinez activated a holographic display. It showed star maps with different colored regions. The red areas are systems that used to belong to exiled species. The Zephyrians were masters of engineering. The Harmonics were telepaths. The architects built most of the great structures in the galaxy. All of them were declared threats. All of them were destroyed or driven out. Jake felt sick. How many species? 7 before us. Each time, the Council took their territory and their technology. Each time, they grew stronger. Admiral Parker stood up again. But some of the exiled species survived. They have been hiding in the outer rim of the galaxy, waiting for a chance to fight back. We have spent the last century finding them, learning from them and preparing for this day. What day? Asked Captain Amy Blake. The day we stop running and start fighting back. The room went silent. For over a century, the exile fleet had been running from the Council. The idea of fighting back seemed impossible. You're talking about war, said Ryan Blake. We have civilians, children. We can't fight a war. We're already in a war, Colonel Martinez said. The Council has been hunting us for over a century. They will never stop. They will never let us live in peace. Dr. Hayes activated another display. The Council is already planning their next exile. The Kepler Confederation, 3 peaceful species that have formed a successful alliance. The Council has declared them a threat. They will be attacked within the next 6 months. How do you know this? Jake asked. Because we have been watching. Them, Admiral Parker said. Our ship has capabilities that the Council doesn't know about. We have been gathering intelligence for decades. Emma Blake, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. What do you want us to do? Admiral Parker looked at the young woman. We want you to help us save the Kepler Confederation. And in doing so, we want you to help us expose the Council's crimes to the entire galaxy. It's suicide, Jake said. The Council has thousands of ships. We have a few hundred. The Council has thousands of ships, Admiral Parker agreed. But they also have thousands of lies to hide. When the galaxy learns the truth about what the Council has done, many of those ships will turn against them. Colonel Martinez smiled. For the first time since entering the room, Captain Morrison, you have been running for over a century. How has that worked out for you? Jake felt anger rise in his chest. We've kept our people alive. Barely. Your ships are falling apart. Your people are dying of old age without ever seeing a real home. Your children are growing up with no hope for the future. That's enough, Amy Blake said, standing up. Don't you dare tell us how to protect our people. I'm not telling you how to protect them, Admiral Parker said calmly. I'm telling you how to give them a future. The Council will never stop hunting us. But if we can destroy their credibility, if we can turn the galaxy against them, then maybe our children can have the life we never had. The room fell silent again. Everyone was thinking about the same thing. Their children. The generation that had never known Earth, never known a real home. Show us, Jake said finally. Show us what you've learned. Show us how we can fight back. Admiral Parker nodded. Colonel Martinez, prepare the briefing materials. Dr. Hayes, contact the Retribution. Tell them to prepare for guests. She looked around the room one more time. Ladies and gentlemen, the age of running is over. The age of fighting back has begun. As the meeting broke up, Jake looked out the window at the Retribution. The massive ship floated in space like a promise of hope. For the first time in his life, he began to believe that maybe, just maybe, humanity might actually have a chance. The ghost ship had returned, and with it, the possibility of going home. The Retribution was like nothing Jake Morrison had ever seen. As his shuttle docked with the massive ship, he felt small and amazed. The docking bay was huge, big enough to hold 20 ships like his. Welcome aboard the Retribution, Captain Morrison, said a young officer who met him at the airlock. I'm Lieutenant Peter Williams. The Admiral is waiting for you in the war room. Jake followed the officer through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were covered with metal plating that looked both human and alien. Some parts glowed with soft blue light, while others hummed with energy he did not recognize. How many people are on this ship? Jake asked. 437, Lieutenant Williams replied. We started with 10,000 when we left Earth. Most of them died during the first 50 years of our journey. Jake felt his stomach tighten. What happened to them? War, Captain. We've been fighting the Council and their allies for over a century. Every battle cost us lives. But every battle also taught us something new. They entered a large room filled with holographic displays and star charts. Admiral Parker stood at the center, surrounded by officers from different species. Jake recognized some as human, but others were clearly alien. Captain Morrison, Admiral Parker said, meet our allies. This is Commander Zara, a Zephyrian engineer. Captain Thel is a harmonic telepath. And this is Builder Corin, one of the last architects. Jake stared at the aliens. He had not seen living members of these species since before the Exile. You're all supposed to be dead. So are you, said Commander Zara. Her voice had a musical quality that made Jake's skin tingle. Yet here we are, survivors of the Council's lies. Captain Thel stepped forward. He was tall and thin, with large eyes that seemed to see right through Jake. "Captain Morrison, I can sense your fear. You are afraid we are leading your people into a trap." "Can you blame me?" Jake asked. "For over a century, we've been told that aliens cannot be trusted." "The Council cannot be trusted," said Builder Corin. His voice was deep and rocky, like stones grinding together. "But not all aliens are part of the Council. Some of us are victims, just like you." Admiral Parker activated a holographic display showing a star map. "Captain Morrison, what I'm about to show you will change everything. You think you know about this galaxy." The display showed dozens of star systems, each marked with different colors. The red systems belong to exiled species. The blue systems belong to the Council. The green systems are neutral worlds that the Council has not yet targeted. Jake studied the map. There are more red systems than blue ones. Exactly. The Council has been systematically destroying or exiling every species that becomes too successful. They are not the protectors of galactic peace. They are parasites, growing fat on the deaths of entire civilizations. Dr. Nathan Cross, the ship's science officer, stepped forward. "Captain, we have proof. We have intercepted Council communications, recovered their secret files, and interviewed survivors from 6 different exiled species. The pattern is always the same." "What pattern?" Jake asked. "First, they identify a species that is growing too powerful or too successful. Then they spend decades preparing propaganda, convincing the galaxy that this species is dangerous. Finally, they launch a defensive war that destroys or exiles the target species." Admiral Parker pointed to a section of the map. "Right now, they are preparing to target the Kepler Confederation, 3 peaceful species that have formed a successful alliance. The Council has already begun spreading rumors that they are planning to attack Council worlds." "How do you know this?" "Because we have been watching them for decades," said Engineer Coran Thompson. "Our ship has stealth capabilities that the Council doesn't know about. We have been gathering intelligence, making contact with other survivors, and preparing for this moment." Jake looked around the room. "What moment?" "The moment we stop running and start fighting back," Admiral Parker said. "The moment we save the Kepler Confederation and expose the Council's crimes to the entire galaxy." "That's impossible. The Council has thousands of ships. Even with your allies, we're outnumbered 100 to 1. Captain Thel stepped forward again. "Captain Morrison, may I share something with you?" Before Jake could answer, he felt a strange sensation in his mind. Suddenly, he could see images that were not his own. He saw Council ships attacking peaceful worlds. He saw entire species being loaded onto transport ships and sent into exile. He saw the Council leaders laughing as they divided up the territory of their victims. "Stop," Jake said, holding his head. "Stop that." The images faded. Captain Thel looked sad. "I'm sorry, Captain, but you needed to see the truth. The Council is not just your enemy. They are the enemy of everyone who believes in freedom and peace." Jake sat down heavily. "Even if everything you're saying is true, we still can't win a direct war against them." "We don't need to win a direct war, Admiral," Parker said. "We need to win a war of information. We need to show the galaxy what the Council really is." Builder Corin activated another display. "The Council's power comes from fear and lies. They convince species to support them by claiming they are protecting the galaxy from dangerous enemies. But what happens when the galaxy learns that the Council has been manufacturing these enemies?" "Revolution," said Commander Zara. "Every species that has been oppressed by the Council will rise up. Every world that has been forced to send troops and resources to fight the Council's wars will demand answers." Jake stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the human exile fleet. Thousands of ships carrying the last survivors of humanity. Children who had never seen Earth. Parents who had died without ever finding a new home. "What are you asking us to do?" he asked quietly. "Help us save the Kepler Confederation," Admiral Parker said. "Help us broadcast the truth about the Council's crimes to the entire galaxy. Help us start a revolution that will free every species from the Council's tyranny. And if we fail, then we die fighting instead of running. And maybe our children will have a chance to live free." Jake turned back to the group. "My daughter Emma is barely 20 years old. She's never known anything but running and hiding. Sometimes I catch her looking at the stars, and I know she's wondering if she ever have a real home." "She will," Captain Thel said softly. "I can see it in her mind. She is strong, like her father. She will live to see humanity return to its rightful place in the galaxy. Can you really see the future?" "I can see possibilities. And I see a future where the Council falls, where the exiled species return home, where your daughter's children grow up on worlds they can call their own." Jake looked at each of the aliens in the room. A few months ago, he would have shot them on sight. Now, they were offering him something he had never dared to hope for, a chance to fight back. "What do you need from us?" he asked. Admiral Parker smiled. "We need your fleet to help us reach the Kepler Confederation before the Council attacks. We need your people to help us broadcast the truth to every world in the galaxy. And we need your courage to stand up to the most powerful force in the galaxy." Jake thought about Amy and Emma, about the thousands of families in the Exile fleet, about the billions of humans who had died without ever seeing justice for the Council's crimes. "Admiral Parker," he said, "humanity is ready to fight." The room erupted in cheers from humans and aliens alike. For the first time in over a century, the exiled species were united in a common cause. "Then let's go save the galaxy," Admiral Parker said. As Jake prepared to return to his ship, he looked back at the war room. The holographic displays showed the positions of thousands of ships, the locations of hidden bases, and the routes to the Kepler Confederation. It was the most ambitious military operation in galactic history. But for the first time since the Exile began, Jake Morrison believed it might actually work. The resistance had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Void Nebula was a place where ships went to disappear. The thick clouds of gas and dust blocked most sensors, making it the perfect hiding place for secrets. As Jake Morrison's shuttle approached the hidden base, he could barely believe what he was seeing. "Is that a space station?" asked Emma Blake, who sat beside him in the co-pilot seat. She had insisted on coming to see the Alliance for herself. "It's bigger than a space station," Jake replied. "It's like a whole city floating in space." The base was made from the hulls of hundreds of different ships, all welded together into a massive structure. Jake could see parts from human vessels, but also sections that looked completely alien. The whole thing was held together by a framework of metal beams that sparkled with energy. "This is Commander Zara," came a voice over the radio. "Welcome to Haven Base, Captain Morrison. Please dock at Bay 7. As they flew closer, Jake could see that the base was busy with activity. Ships of all shapes and sizes were coming and going. Some looked human, others were clearly alien, and a few appeared to be combinations of both. "Dad, look at that ship," Emma said, pointing to a sleek vessel that was leaving the base. "It doesn't look like anything I've ever seen." Jake studied the ship. It had the basic shape of a human destroyer, but its hull was covered with the flowing lines of Zephyrian engineering. Its engines glowed with the blue energy he had seen on the Retribution. "It's a hybrid," he said. "Human and alien technology combined." They docked at the assigned bay and were met by a mixed group of humans and aliens. Jake recognized some of the species from the history books: tall, graceful Zephyrians with their musical voices, thin harmonics with their large eyes, and stocky architects with their stone-like skin. "Welcome to Haven," said a human woman who approached them. "I'm Captain Sarah Wells, formerly of the Earth Defense Force. I've been working with the Alliance for the past 10 years. 10 years? Jake asked. How did you get here? My ship was captured by a Council patrol. We were being taken to a prison world when the Retribution rescued us. Admiral Parker offered us a choice: join the Alliance or be taken to a safe world, to live quietly. Most of us chose to fight. They were led through corridors that were a mix of human and alien architecture. The walls were covered with flowing alien script, but Jake could also see familiar human warning signs and deck numbers. How? Many people live here? Emma asked. About 50,000, Captain Wells replied. Representatives from all 8 exiled species, plus refugees from dozens of other worlds. We're not just an alliance anymore. We're a new kind of civilization. They entered a large meeting hall where hundreds of beings were gathered. Jake had never seen so many different species in one place. At the center of the room stood Admiral Parker, but she was not alone. Beside her stood leaders from each of the exiled species. Captain Morrison, Admiral Parker called out. Please join us. We have much to discuss. Jake and Emma made their way to the center of the room. As they walked, Jake noticed that many of the beings were watching them with interest. Some looked hopeful, others seemed curious, and a few appeared suspicious. Ladies and gentlemen, Admiral, Parker said, her voice carrying across the room. This is Captain Jake Morrison, commander of the human exile fleet. He and his people have agreed to join our cause. The room erupted in cheers and applause. Jake felt overwhelmed by the response. For over a century, humans had been outcasts, hunted and hated. Now they were being welcomed as allies. Captain Morrison, said a tall Zephyrian female, I am Prime Engineer Lyra. My people have been waiting for this day for 300 years. The humans were always known for their adaptability and innovation. Together, we can build ships that the Council has never imagined. A harmonic stepped forward. I am Mind Speaker Keth. My people can sense the thoughts and emotions of others. We have felt the pain of the human exile fleet. Your suffering has been great, but it has also made you strong. And I am Master Builder Torin, said an architect. My people built many of the great structures in the galaxy. We can help you build not just ships, but entire worlds where your children can grow up in peace. Jake looked around the room. These beings had all lost their homes, just like humanity. They had all been betrayed by the Council. But instead of giving up, they had found each other and built something new. What do you need from us? Jake asked. Everything, Admiral Parker said with a smile. We need your ships, your people, and your courage. But most importantly, we need your hope. Our hope? Yes, the human exile fleet has been running for over a century, but you never gave up. You kept your families together, you preserved your culture, and you never stopped believing that someday you would find a home. That kind of hope is what will win this war. Over the next several hours, Jake learned about the Alliance's plans. The different species had been working together for decades, combining their technologies and knowledge to create something unprecedented. The Zephyrians had improved ship designs, making them faster and more efficient. The Harmonics had developed new communication systems that could reach across the galaxy instantly. The Architects had created defensive technologies that could protect entire fleets from attack. But the most impressive achievement was the hybrid ships. By combining human adaptability with alien expertise, they had created vessels that were superior to anything the Council had ever built. We call them Unity-class ships, explained engineer Corinne Thompson. Each one is unique, designed for a specific purpose. Some are built for speed, others for firepower, and some for defense. How many do you have? Jake asked. 50 so far, said Prime Engineer Lyra. "But with your fleet's help, we can build hundreds more. Your civilian transports can be converted into mobile factories. Your people can work alongside our engineers to create the largest fleet in galactic history." Emma spoke up. "What about the Council? They won't just sit by and watch us build an army." "You're right," said Mindspeaker Keth. "The Council is already preparing for their attack on the Kepler Confederation. We have perhaps 6 months before they launch their assault." 6 months to build a fleet capable of challenging the Council? Jake asked. "That's impossible." "Not impossible," said Admiral Parker. "Difficult, yes, but not impossible. We have something the Council doesn't have." "What's that?" "The truth. And once we broadcast that truth to the galaxy, the Council's own ships will turn against them." Master Builder Taurine activated a holographic display. "Captain Morrison, we have been intercepting Council communications for months. Many of their ship captains are beginning to question their orders. They are tired of fighting wars that seem to have no purpose. The Council has been telling these captains that they are protecting the galaxy from dangerous enemies," added Captain Wells. "But what happens when they learn that the Council has been creating these enemies?" Jake studied the display. It showed communication logs from dozens of Council ships. Many of the messages expressed doubt about the Council's motives. Some even questioned whether the wars were necessary. "You really think they'll turn against their own government?" Jake asked. "Not all of them," Mindspeaker Keth said, "but enough. The Council's power comes from fear and lies. When the truth is revealed, that power will crumble." Emma looked around the room. "What do you need me to do?" Admiral Parker smiled at the young woman. "You, my dear, are going to help us save the galaxy. Your generation grew up during the Exile. You understand both the pain of loss and the power of hope. You can speak to young people across the galaxy in a way that we cannot. You want me to make speeches? We want you to tell your story. The story of a young woman who grew up without a home but never gave up hope. The story of a generation that refused to accept the Council's lies." Jake felt a surge of pride as he looked at his daughter. She was young, but she was strong. She had inherited her mother's compassion and her father's courage. "I'll do it," Emma said. "I'll tell them what it's like to grow up in exile. I'll tell them what it's like to dream of a home you've never seen." The room erupted in applause again. Jake realized that this was more than just a military alliance. It was a family, bound together by shared suffering and common hope. "Ladies and gentlemen," Admiral Parker said, "the time for hiding is over. The time for planning is over. The time for action has begun." As the meeting broke up, Jake stood with Emma looking out at the busy docks of Haven Base. Ships were being loaded with supplies and equipment. Engineers from different species were working together to upgrade weapons and engines. "Dad," Emma said quietly, "do you really think we can win?" Jake put his arm around his daughter. "I think we have something the Council doesn't have." "What's that?" "Each other. The Council rules through fear and division, but we're united by hope and friendship. That's a powerful combination." Emma nodded and looked back at the base. "I want to help build those ships. I want to be part of this." "You will be," Jake said. "We all will." As they prepared to return to the fleet, Jake felt something he had not felt in years. Excitement about the future. The alliance was real. The hope was real. And for the first time since the Exile began, victory seemed possible. The galaxy's outcasts had found each other, and together they were about to change everything. The Kepler Confederation had no idea what was coming. Captain Jake Morrison watched from the bridge of his upgraded ship as the massive Council fleet approached the 3 peaceful worlds. 2,000 Council ships, armed with the most advanced weapons in the galaxy, moved through space like a wall of death. "They're beautiful worlds," said Emma Blake, who now served as his communications officer. Through the view screen, they could see the 3 planets of the Kepler system. Blue oceans, green continents, and white clouds covered their surfaces. Millions of innocent people lived down there, going about their daily lives. "Not for much longer if we fail," Jake replied grimly. The Alliance fleet was hidden behind the system's largest moon. 1,000 ships, built by the combined efforts of 8 different species. They were outnumbered 2 to 1, but Jake had seen what these hybrid ships could do. "Admiral Parker to all ships," came the familiar voiceover. The radio. "This is it, people. Today we stop running. Today we fight back. Today we show the galaxy what the Council really is." Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was a mix of humans and aliens, working together as if they had been doing it for years. Lieutenant Peter Williams sat at the weapons station, his fingers dancing over controls that combined human design with Zephyrian efficiency. Dr. Sandra Hayes monitored the ship's new harmonic communication systems. "Sir, we're receiving the Council's ultimatum," Emma reported. On the main screen, a Council admiral appeared. He was a tall, proud alien with cold eyes and a voice like ice. "People of the Kepler Confederation, you have been declared a threat to galactic security. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally or face total destruction." Jake felt sick. It was the same ultimatum the Council had given to Earth over a century ago. The same lies, the same threats. "Emma, open a channel to all ships in the system," Jake ordered. "Channel open, sir." Jake took a deep breath. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Human Alliance Fleet. Council ships, you are about to commit genocide against innocent people. We cannot allow this to happen." The Council Admiral's face appeared on screen again. He looked surprised and angry. "Humans? Impossible. You were exiled from this galaxy over a century ago." "We were exiled by your lies," Jake replied. "But we're back, and we're not alone." The Alliance fleet moved out from behind the moon. 1,000 ships of different shapes and sizes, all flying together in perfect formation. The Council fleet stopped advancing, clearly shocked by what they were seeing. "Admiral Parker to Council fleet," came the voice over all frequencies. "You know who I am. You thought you had destroyed me and my ship long ago. But we survived, and we learned this truth about what you really are." The battle began without warning. The Council ships fired first, sending thousands of energy beams toward the Alliance fleet. But the Alliance ships were ready. Their architect-designed shields absorbed most of the damage, while their Zephyrian engines allowed them to move faster than the Council ships could target. Jake's ship, the new Defiant, dove toward a group of Council destroyers. Its hybrid weapons systems fired blue energy beams that cut through enemy shields like they were made of paper. Beside him, other Alliance ships attacked with weapons the Council had never seen before. "Sir, the Retribution is engaging the Council flagship," Emma reported. On the screen, Jake could see Admiral Parker's massive ship fighting 3 Council dreadnoughts at once. The Retribution's weapons were incredible, firing beams of energy that seemed to bend space itself. But the Council ships were fighting back hard. "Emma, patch me through to the Kepler Defense Forces. Channel open. This is Captain Morrison to all Kepler ships. We are here to help you. Fight alongside us, and we can drive the Council away from your worlds." At first, the Kepler ships hesitated. They had never seen human ships before, and they did not know if they could be trusted. But as they watched the Alliance fleet fighting desperately to protect their worlds, they began to join the battle dock. The fight lasted for hours. Ships exploded on both sides, filling space with debris and fire. Jake watched friends die, saw good ships destroyed, but the Alliance kept fighting. Then something amazing happened. Dr. Hayes looked up from her station with wide eyes. "Sir, I'm detecting massive transmissions from the harmonic ships. What kind of transmissions? They're broadcasting directly into the minds of the Council crews. They're showing them the truth about the Council's history, about all the species they've destroyed. On the main screen, Jake could see some of the Council ships slowing down, their weapons stopping. Crew members on those ships were learning, for the first time, about the Zephyrians, the Harmonics, the Architects, and all the other species their government had betrayed. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from a Council cruiser," Emma said excitedly. A new face appeared on screen. It was a young Council officer, and he looked horrified. "Alliance ships, this is Captain Vex of the Council ship Dominator. We ... We didn't know. We thought we were protecting the galaxy. But the things we're seeing in our minds, the species, you destroyed ... the lies our leaders told us." "Captain Vex," Jake replied, "you can still do the right thing. Stand down your weapons. Help us stop this madness." One by one, Council ships began to stop fighting. Some turned their weapons on. Other Council ships that continued the attack. Others simply powered down and drifted away from the battle. But the Council's most loyal ships kept fighting. Admiral Parker's voice came over the radio, strained but determined. "All ships, concentrate fire on the remaining Council vessels. We end this now." The final phase of the battle was brutal. The remaining Council ships fought with desperate fury, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. The Alliance ships, now joined by defecting Council vessels and the Kepler Defense Force, overwhelmed them completely. When the last Council ship either surrendered or was destroyed, the system fell silent, except for rescue operations and damage. Reports. "Emma, open a channel to the entire galaxy," Jake ordered. "Channel open on all frequencies, sir." Admiral Parker's voice filled the void of space. "People of the galaxy, today you have witnessed the truth. The Galactic Council has been lying to you for over 1,000 years. They have destroyed or exiled 8 different species, not because those species were dangerous, but because they were successful. The transmission continued for hours. The Alliance broadcast proof of the Council's crimes to every world in the All-In galaxy. They showed evidence of the destroyed civilizations, testimonies from survivors, and recordings of Council leaders planning their genocides. Within days, the galaxy exploded in revolution. World after world declared independence from the Council. Species that had been oppressed for centuries rose up against their rulers. The Council's vast empire crumbled like a house built on sand. Jake stood on the observation deck of his ship, looking out at the Kepler worlds. The planets were safe, their people free to continue their peaceful lives. Around him, Alliance ships were helping with rescue operations and repairs. "Dad," Emma said, joining him at the window, "we did it. We actually did it." "We did, Jake." "Agreed. But this is just the beginning." "What do you mean?" Jake pointed to the stars. "Out there are billions of people who have been living under the Council's lies for generations. They're going to need help building a new kind of galaxy. A galaxy based on truth and cooperation instead of fear and oppression." Emma smiled. "And we're going to help them?" "We're going to help them. All of us together." Admiral Parker's voice came over the ship's speakers. "All fleet commanders, please report to the Retribution for a planning meeting. We have a galaxy to rebuild." As Jake and Emma prepared to leave for the meeting, Jake looked back at the Kepler worlds one more time. For over a century, humanity had been homeless wanderers, outcasts from the galaxy they had once hoped to call home. But they had returned, not as conquerors, but as liberators. Not alone, but with friends who had shared their suffering and their hope. The exile was over. The real work was just beginning. 5 years later, Jake stood on the bridge of a new ship, watching as the former Council capital world celebrated its first free elections. The galaxy had been transformed. The old empire of lies and fear had been replaced by a democratic alliance where every species had an equal voice. Emma, now a captain in her own right, commanded a ship crewed by beings from a dozen different worlds. The younger generation, both human and alien, had grown up together during the Reconstruction. They saw each other not as different species, but as fellow citizens of a free galaxy. The Retribution had been turned into a memorial, orbiting the new capital world as a reminder of what could be accomplished when the oppressed stood together against their oppressors. Admiral Parker had died the previous year, but not before seeing her dream fulfilled. At her funeral, representatives from hundreds of worlds had come to honor the woman who had spent her life fighting for freedom. Jake often thought about the long journey that had brought them to this point. The century of exile, the desperate flight from world to world, the constant fear of being discovered by council patrols. It had been hard, harder than anything humanity had ever endured, but it had also made them strong. It had taught them the value of cooperation, the importance of hope, and the power of never giving up. As Jake looked out at the stars, he saw not empty space, but infinite possibility. Somewhere out